Okay, we're recording this video Tuesday, 3rd of December 2013. Well, that's more like it. A couple of days, decent range, decent volume, and how about today's activity? Wow, quite a sell-off. I hope you caught some of it. Before I go through the E-mini charts, just have a look at pound and a couple of other markets. So we got the this kind of break up through Thanksgiving last week, and it's just kind of continued on. Almost got to 64.5 on the way up here. Little bit of profit taking yesterday, but it's not over on the pound. We're above cyclical resistance on the daily and the weekly time frames, and we've got to see exhaustion buying on a left shoulder before this thing's over. So just going to see this thing kind of creeping up over time. But yeah, it's been a really strong 3 or 4 days here on the pound. Other markets, now crude, finally some good news on a crude trade, but this thing has got to find a pullback in a downtrend kind of resistance at some point, and I'm going to be thinking about getting out of this thing somewhere between this kind of 98.99 and 102. The last time where we broke down through this kind of important support here, these blue professional bars, when we come back into there, it'll be a pullback and a downtrend. That's where we're likely to see some blue professional bars kind of come in. So this has been a hard one for me, sitting on this loss. I have a long-term kind of bullish view on crude just because of the commitment of traders, but this has really hurt. So anyway, as soon as it gets back into that zone, I'll probably be trying to get out of this one. But look at this, you know, silver and gold last few days. Yesterday was a big down day on the silver market, and we're in downtrends here on the daily time frames. I know we've got some blue professional bars, we've got some exhaustion patterns and so on, but you know, it's not really severe at this point, and that was kind of like getting the move going. It wasn't on really a clear left shoulder. We're getting perilously close to these kind of last lows down here at 18.19, and we've got to put in pullback to end of trend. So at some point I think we're going to have a really big volume reading, a really big momentum reading on the downside. So just kind of look for that. Gold, we haven't seen it yet. If you look at the better momentum here down here, you know, this was a flush pattern, and it kind of went alongside some real extreme selling in gold, and I think we're going to, you know, down here is kind of the high 1180s, something like that. As soon as we kind of break to those lows, it's going to get extreme. So going to be looking for a big day someday, you know, in the next week or so on gold. We're in a downtrend. It's got to make pullback to end of trend. So that's just looking on the other markets. E-mini today. So finally, last couple of days, about 1.1 million contracts traded so far. It's not even 2 o'clock yet. We did about 1.1 yesterday. So finally, we're out of the doldrums. Last 2 weeks has been really slow, and this is kind of why we rolled over. We had a whole bunch of no demand and Rambo patterns up here, NOD, no demand, and then 2 Rambo patterns kind of in there at those highs up in the 18, you know, teens, and we just tend to roll over from those patterns. It takes a little bit of time, but you know, we eventually kind of got that little breakdown. Still got to put in pullback to end of trend on the daily chart, on the weekly chart, and so on. So I don't know where this is going to go. In terms of, you know, we've sold down into a support. This is just looking at the Dow with better X trend on it. You know, this kind of trailing support that we're kind of coming back. It's coming back into that zone, which will be kind of interesting. It's on all the charts at the moment. That kind of pattern coming back to that support level, but you know, we've got to see some exhaustion selling and some end of trend signals. If you look at that on the 40,500 tip bar chart, so again, this was the high. This was kind of Thanksgiving into the Friday, Rambo patterns creeping up into the teens, 18 teens. We'd had our exhaustion on a left shoulder and bearish divergence. This one was right on the 0 line, so we're looking for something a little bit deeper. We kind of got that over the last couple of days, and we're now through support here. But you know, the big selling that we had was that kind of Friday into Monday, and even with today's activity, which was pretty extreme on some of the time frames, it's not really kind of come up in on this tick frame. The 40,500 tip bar chart hasn't really been an extreme kind of shoulder, no blue professional bars at the lows and so on, and we've got to make pullback to end of trend. So you know, maybe we're going to head down to this kind of 70s type level, which was, you know, resistance here becomes support here, in order to get that kind of you know, extreme volume signal to stop this on a left shoulder. So we'll see. It was a good day today. 1500 tip bar chart. This is it. Now the takeaway from today, this was the most important thing. So we had this big sell-off overnight, okay, and you're always looking to kind of get short the first kind of sign of weakness. So this was a good kind of area to short. It was resistance on the 1500 tip bar chart. It was a flush pattern here. We had some blue professional bars on the 500 tip bar chart and so on. It was a nice little kind of down leg hit into this support, and Rambo patterns kind of down here. But look at the lows down here. No blue professional bars at the lows, and no exhaustion selling down here. Okay, at these lows. That bottom was not in because we hadn't seen blue professional bars at the lows, we hadn't seen an exhaustion selling pattern. But from these Rambo patterns, we did rally back up pretty severely. Now, the professionals just didn't have an opportunity to kind of get into this down move during the pre-open, the overnight kind of session. So they were kind of gaming it up to get them back into that zone here. It was very clear on the 4,500 tip bar chart. Let me just show you that here. You can see these blue professional bars come in on that retrace back here to that zone where we kind of broke down from. The blue professional bars kind of come in here around this area, and that's where they're getting short again. Now, I must admit, this was very tricky to trade. Wasn't sure whether it was breaking up, breaking down. I knew the low was not in because we hadn't had exhaustion selling and blue professional bars here. This exhaustion selling signal was coming into this move here, this kind of sell-off there, which was extreme, that caused a lot of people trying to get short at that point, gave an exhaustion selling signal, and then we had a bullish divergence here. They're in the wrong place. That's not the right place. That's not a left shoulder to end this thing. And then we went through a very confused kind of pattern, bit of a U-turn here with a blue professional down bar and a blue professional up bar kind of going on here, but we couldn't get through the 98s. And then when this thing broke down here through support, that's falling through the ice, a blue professional bar, two of them actually falling through support, takes us into a downtrend. And then all the blue professional bars start to come in at the lows. We have a short covering rally here with an exhaustion pattern into this, pullback in a downtrend, go off, and again we hadn't seen the exhaustion selling until just a few minutes ago, where we had another pullback to end of trend, exhaustion down here. So it took its time. The takeaway from all of this is wait for everything to kind of come together. You're not trading off one out of three signals. The exhaustion patterns are not kind of enough. We need the pullback to end of trend. We need the blue professional bars all to come in to kind of signal that low. So this was a nice kind of move to get in short. There was an opportunity to kind of re-enter here as well, and it wasn't over until we see pullback to end of trend. So I actually pulled out a point going long right at the beginning of the day off this. Just I was looking for two, got out with just one. It was a little bit of it was a counter trend play. I shouldn't really have taken it, but I did. Then went short at this point at 95 1/4. Didn't work out for me. I got out with 1.5 point loss. So I'm sitting with losses of a 0.5 point after two trades there. Took another short trade, break even, and we started to break up to this point. So then I tried to go long twice at 97.5, just thinking, is this thing going to break through 98s? Anyway, it didn't. More losses. So I'm sitting on 2 points of losses net after 5 trades with all this kind of, because we didn't have a decent kind of break, and then that's when you get your big kind of trend move. So it took a little bit of time, but this one was a nice one. Pulled out 5.5 out of this one, re-entered for another short trade here for another 2, and then another 4 out of the short trade out of 91 and a quarter kind of down here. So big trending days. It was nice, but this was tricky. This was tricky trading. That was in the wrong spot. Showed people wanted to get short a bit too early, and then we had this kind of confusing pattern with the U-turn on the blue professional bars. But the low was not in because we'd not seen exhaustion selling on a left shoulder, and we hadn't had blue professional bars at the lows down here. So, and on the 4,500 they did kind of come in. There's all those blue professional bars kind of coming in, and then at the bottom of the day, Rambo patterns, amateurs thinking it's going to keep on going and going. No, they're wrong-footed right there, and we kind of bounce back up. So we've got to make pullback to end of trend on the 4,500 tip bar chart. I don't know on the long-term chart whether this one's going to go to an exhaustion pattern on the left shoulder. We'll see. This has got a kind of complete pullback to end of trend. So it was a fairly decent down day, but maybe there's more in it. So there we go. I hope your trading is going well. I didn't put up a video yesterday, just a little note. Checked my charts in the morning, and all of a sudden a lot of my kind of tick charts had refreshed overnight, and the signals were a little bit different. I wonder if anybody else kind of saw the same thing yesterday. During the day, I had a flush pattern on the 1500 tip bar chart first thing, and with the refresh of the charts, it ended up being an exhaustion pattern. I just wondered if anybody else kind of saw that here. This is what I'm talking about with Monday's trade. Whoops, gone a little bit too far. This pattern here, that for me yesterday was a flush pattern, and on the refresh of the charts it ended up being exhaustion and bullish divergence. It was a nice signal there on the way up. I traded it based on a flush pattern kind of down there, and this was a little bit different. If anybody else saw that as well, you just send me an email, because I'm trying to figure out what actually happened, whether I had data disconnects or what was going on during that trading patterns yesterday. Anyway, hope your trading's going well, and looking forward to the rest of the week. Okay, reverse gone short 650, short 96.50. Just checking my stops and targets. So loss of 1 point on that last one. Didn't want to go pull back end of trend. We've had this weird kind of day where I'm just looking at my targets. I have to think about moving that out. We didn't have any blue professional bars at the lows. The exhaustion selling pattern that we had was halfway up the move here. It was kind of going into this. We had another big sell down into this. And then we had a U-turn pattern, blue professional bars kind of rounding it up, and now we just can't get through 8s. So we've got to go have a proper left shoulder exhaustion pattern, blue professional bars at the lows. So hopefully this is it in terms of this congestion pattern, and it was a pullback to didn't really complete, and we just break down at this point here. So we're through support on 500, breaking into a downtrend. So let's hold on, see where it goes. Alright, here we go. We just came down from 97s, blue professional bar, breaking the lows of that, and kind of quickly got down a blue professional bar. If it's minus 7,000 here, if we keep on going through the lows of that, that means we're through into a downtrend on 1500. Here we go. So it'll be a triple. So below support 45, below support 15, below support 500, and on our way to test the lows. So we've just been in this really wide congestion zone, finally giving it up. Right, here we go. Breaking on the downside. I just moved my target to 91 even, just to see if I can squeeze out a little bit more. Got a couple of losses to pick up because of this congestion zone, and we didn't do an exhaustion pattern there. It was a decent reading, but it wasn't 7.5 wasn't enough to put it off. Anyway, so because we're below support here, this is probably a run pullback to end of trend. But the reason for going 91 is down here. The low pre-open was 92, so we could easily just overshoot that on a little run of stops and get to 91s. So that would be nice to pick up. Come on. So this blue professional bar through support is falling through the ice. We're in downtrends on all 3 time frames, so this has got to resolve. We'll pull back to end of trends. So see what happens next. Alright, we just had a bit of a technical bounce off the low for the day session at 93 even. Blue professional bar starting to come on 45, but there we go. We've got to break to 2.5. This is a bit of a short covering rally here. Here we go. 2 even was overnight low. I'm looking for 1 even, and it was a flush pattern. We've got to see pullback to end of trend. So let's keep going. Alright, the original target of 2.5 got hit. We got down to 2s. A whole bunch of blue professional bars kind of come in here, so they're mirroring these on the way up. So that's why we're having a little bit of a bounce off 2 even, but we're still going to make pullback to end of trend on all 3 time frames. So we've got another pulse down to go on the 500. So let's see if we break through the 2s into 1s. Here we go. We're back down at 2.25. Blue professional bar coming on that retrace. So come on, is this? Here we go. 2. Alright, let's go. Bingo! Just taken out. 91 even. Excellent. Just as this is just about to go pullback end of trend. There we go. So a good place to be out for 5.5, which is good, but I had 2 points of losses to make up on those other trades. So 3.5 for the day. Not too bad. 10:36 a.m. All these blue professional bars kind of come in here, but we're still going to make pullback to end of trends on all these time frames. So see how that turns out. This is just a flush pattern on the way down. It's not an exhaustion pattern on a left shoulder. So I think it's still got further to go on the downside.